All right, we've finished all of the preliminary steps. We're now ready to install Joomla on our website. And there's a number of different ways you can actually do this. And just might point out a couple of different ways. If you go to client, your client login, and then go to your cPanel, you'll notice that if you scroll down, they have a little app installer program here where you can very quickly add Joomla to your account on the web server. And you'll see that it is indeed showing the latest version of Joomla. And so this allows you to install the latest version. Just hit the install button and you'll have Joomla on your site. If you are working with a web host that doesn't provide this type of service, you'll need to go to joomla.org and simply hit the download button, and this will bring you to a screen that allows you to choose what type of package to download. And since this is a new installation, you'll want the full package, not the upgrade package. So go ahead and get that. Save it to your hard drive. And once it's finished downloading, you can go back to your cPanel. And once you're back in your cPanel, scroll down and look under your subtitle files and find your file manager. Hit go, and just confirm that you are in the public HTML folder. It'll show up there as being highlighted by default usually in most control panels. And then what you want to do is go up to the top and hit upload. And then using the browse button, search your hard drives for the zip file that you just downloaded. Now if you are using Windows, that probably went to users and your downloads. Just double click on that and it'll start uploading. And once it's complete, you can click the little button here back to your file manager. And you'll see that the zip folder is now showing up in your public HTML area. And you just have to go and right-click on that zipped file and from the drop-down menu choose Extract. And then just confirm that, extract files, and your file manager will go in and take that zip file and unzip it for you and install all of the files on your system. Okay, looks like it's done. And we can close out of File Manager. All right, so now we have the latest version of Joomla residing on our server. What we need to do now is install Joomla, give it some information that it needs to connect to the database on our server. And so the way that you do that is simply type in your website address, your domain name, and it'll automatically go to the install program for Joomla. Now, if when you type in your domain name, not a lot happens, it's probably because your domain name is still not resolving. When you pointed your name servers to your host, remember it does take a few hours for that to really work. But that doesn't mean that we can't go ahead. What you need to do is just go back to your welcome email that you got from Pacific Host or the host that you went with. Check their welcome email. And somewhere in this welcome email should be a way to log on to your new website even if your domain name is still not working. Here it is just right at the bottom of step 3 where it says, how can I access my website if my domain isn't working yet? And there you'll see that they provide you a link, a temporary link of how you can access your website even if your actual domain name is not yet working. So just click on that link. Oh, it looks like Pacific Host has set this up to um, automatically go to a welcome screen for Pacific Host if your domain name has not yet started to resolve. So let's go back to our welcome email and try something a little different. This time, rather than click on your link, do a copy of that link or write it down so that you can type it in. Copy, and then copy that into your web browser. And this time add index.php and hit return, and that should bring us to the installation panel of Joomla. And sure enough, Joomla 2.5.6 installation. And the first screen allows you to choose the language that you would like to work with. I think that I'll just stick with English. We'll go ahead and hit the next button. Now this runs a little kind of a pre-installation check to see if the resources of your server, if the scripts that have been installed on the server with the host that you went with, has the types of software that Joomla requires in order to work properly. And it's pretty important to make sure that your host is showing all yeses here in the top panel. The second panel is recommended settings, and it's okay to have a couple of reds there. In fact, as you're building your site, it's probably good to have the display errors on. You can go back and shut that off later. Okay, so everything looks good with Pacific Host. If you're on it with a different host and you're seeing some no's here and some reds here, you may want to address those issues with your host, or simply sign up with Pacific Host and you'll be fine. Okay, let's go to next. And this is the license that you want to read through and agree to. Hit the next button. Okay, here is where we plug in our database information. Remember, we asked you to write that down in the last tutorial, so find that piece of paper, and now is the time to plug in this information. And the first one is username, and remember to include the first portion of that name. Mine was vividmed_. Now the password and the database name. And you could change the table prefix if you wanted to. Joomla puts one in there at random by default, and it's really fine just to accept that. So if you've entered all of this database information correctly, when you hit the next button, everything should be a go. If you get a screen here that tells you that, sorry, that doesn't quite work, it'll give you a back button, and you can go back and try and put in your database information correctly. Okay, now the FTP configuration screen, for most users, you just want to go ahead and skip over this, just hit the next button. You need to be careful when you're setting up FTP on any site. It can create security issues. Okay, now our next screen allows you to type in the name of your site. Mine is going to be Vivid Media Productions. And now it'll ask you to type in an email address. And in the next field, you can create a username for your Joomla account. Now, it's good to point out, or good to know, that this is different than the username that you set up for your database. The username that you made when you created your database does not have anything to do with Joomla. When you go to enter into your Joomla account, you need to enter this username that you create at this point. You could leave it at admin if you want, but you probably want to create something more personal. And give yourself a password. And if you're like me, you'll want to write these things down again. I've actually created or installed Joomla software, and 5 minutes later when I go to log into Joomla, I cannot remember what password I use. So if you're like me, you want to just write this information down so you have it always as a reference. And the next section asks you, do you want to install sample data? And if this is your first Joomla installation, it's a good idea to actually install the sample data, and it'll give you an opportunity to see what's possible with a sample website. So let's go ahead and use this, install sample data, and we can move on to our next screen. Okay, and we are finished. We have installed Joomla on our website. Now, it will ask you to remove the installation folder before you can actually go any further. So click on that, and it lets you know that it was successfully removed, and you are now ready to go to your site. You could actually just click on the little button at the top to go directly to your site and see what it looks like. Oh, we're back to our Pacific Host welcome screen. Well, let's maybe see if we can't do something to get rid of this. Let's go back to our cPanel and click on your file manager and make sure that you're in public HTML and look for a file called index.html. And let's just delete that. Now let's go back to our welcome email and find that temporary link that they gave to us. This, of course, will be a lot easier once your domain name is resolving. Mine still isn't for some reason, so I'm having to use this temporary link. And you may have to as well if you're following along with these tutorials very rapidly. Your domain name is probably still not resolving. So now let's see what happens when we click on this temporary link. Well, it looks like we're back to our welcome screen here. That's probably a caching issue. My web browser, my Firefox web browser, is just remembering that that's where we went last time. Let's maybe go back to our welcome email, and again, this time instead of clicking on the link, highlight it and do a copy. And this time, before pasting it into our browser, let's clear some of our cache. Do on your keyboard at the same time hit Control-Shift-Delete key, and if you're in Firefox, you'll be brought up to a clear history on your caching. We don't need to clear all of our cache. Let's just do the last, say, 2 hours. Clear now. And now when we paste in our temporary URL and hit return, we are now brought to our website instead of the splash screen for Pacific Host. And so here we are. Even though our domain name is still not resolving, we have a new Joomla website with all of the sample data that we asked it to install. If you were to click on some sample sites and maybe go to Parks Home, you'll see that to give you an idea of how Joomla works, Joomla has provided us with some sample data, some sample images, a park blog you can go check out. All right, so that is how we install Joomla.